The Stage Door Show, celebrating the independent artist. With your host, Dave Hondel.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Stage Door Show tonight. This is Dave Hondel. Very excited about tonight's guest. I can't say enough about him. I've been a fan of his work ever since I can remember, and I'm so honored to have him on the show. So please welcome Mr. Jim Brickman. Jim, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. You know, Jim, I saw you grew up in Ohio, and I guess my first question is, at what point when you were growing up did you become interested in making music?
Yeah, I grew up in Cleveland, suburb of Cleveland, called Shaker Heights, and I was not from a musical family, and so there wasn't actually a lot of music around. You know, a lot of times you hear that, I know a lot of my friends or contemporaries where they say, oh, music filled the house, and so it was just part of my world as I grew up. And for me, that wasn't the case. It was something that I discovered on my own. It was, I was just drawn to it. We didn't have a piano, didn't have any musical instruments, but I just, music made me happy, even even when I was a little kid. Just movies, first movie I saw was Mary Poppins, and movies like The Sound of Music, and just these kind of things, especially in the early 60s when these movie musicals, and there was so much music on television too, so many variety shows, Sesame Street, all this influx of music, that not even pop music, but just, coming from media so much, was very influential to me, and that's what drew me to the piano.
No, I know. Speaking of media, drawing your interest in music at a young age, did that inspire you, I guess, to create jingles? Because I know you did jingles at one point. So is this something that kind of inspired you?
Well, I mean, I started out as a piano player, but really what I am is a songwriter. I think that because I play the piano and I'm known for the piano, people don't necessarily, they think of me as a pianist, piano player. But really what I am is a songwriter, and that's not the kind of thing that shows itself at a young age. It doesn't, there aren't a lot of like 10-year-old songwriters. So the path to that tends to be more an instrument that leads you to becoming a songwriter. And so for me, once I started writing my own songs as a teenager, it lent itself to writing, at least with me, very hooky songs and very mainstream poppy sounding things. And so that lent itself a lot to commercials, because that's what most jingles are, is very catchy, short pop songs. And so it was a great thing for me to start doing, because it reflected the kind of talent that I was kind of growing into.
Jim, how do you draw inspiration to write music? Is it usually the words first, the lyrics, or is it a melody that you have in your head? What is your process for writing music?
Well, it's funny. At different stages of the career, it's kind of a different answer, because like anything that you do that in your life, once you hone it, refine it, and it sort of takes on a life of its own, 40 years later, your approach to songwriting is different than it was at the beginning. But one of the things that's the most important is, at any time, beginning or middle, is to trust what comes to you and not second guess it all the time. I think that that's true in any profession, but especially creatively. When you start getting other people's voices in your head, or you start second guessing whether you think something is good, not good. There's really no such thing as that. It's just what you do or what you don't do. Good is a relative term to how people receive it. There's never such a thing as good and bad. And so you have to trust what comes to you. And I think I was very comfortable trusting that what came out of me naturally was what defined my sound and my voice, so to speak. And so inspiration can come from anywhere. It can come from within. Mm-hmm. It can come from observation of other people's stories. It can come from places and environments and art and beauty and anything that hits you, like you want to take something that you see or hear and turn it into a musical reflection of what you see and hear.
Yeah, I'm glad you said what you said, because I think that a lot of younger artists, like our audience that listens to our show, I think sometimes they get frustrated if they put something out and it doesn't hit right away or it doesn't get a lot of listens. And I think that, like you said, I mean, music, I think, and art in general is the beauties in the eyes, of the beholder, and in this case, the ears of the beholder. And I think that, that listenership will get there and those listens will come, but it's just staying true to yourself, right?
It's also staying the course. You have to believe that you have something to say that's unique to you and that isn't a copycat thing, or that you're doing it for the right reason. And, even if it's not popular right away, the only way to make it successful in the long run is to stay with who you are. For me, it started out primarily as solo piano music. It was a while until I started adding vocals, but if the first thing I put out what didn't hit big, let's say, and then I changed course, then you find yourself always accommodating what you think is going to hit, as opposed to just doing, standing by what you do and believing enough that, in my case, I play solo piano music that is calming, relaxing, inspirational, romantic, knowing that it is easier to stay on a track. So that if somebody doesn't like it right away, then you say, well, this is me. And, maybe you like the next one in that category of what I've defined myself as opposed to me saying, oh, well, that romantic song didn't work. Maybe I'll do a rock and roll song. If that's not inherently part of who I am, then I'll never be known as something. I'll just be a copycat of other people.
Have you ever written music? I know you collaborate with some of the biggest names in music, and it's just beautiful collaborations that you've had. Did you ever write music with somebody in mind that you think would be great for a vocalist for that particular song?
Yeah, it all starts with the song itself for the most part, unless there's an opportunity that comes that is set up, sometimes an opportunity, such and such person would like to do something with you, then it has a trajectory to be writing with that person in mind. But for the most part, I write the song that I feel like is the best song for the moment. And then I sometimes hear a vocal quality in my mind, but that's taken on different things. Like there's a song of mine, "Sending You a Little Christmas," that I did with a female vocalist in mind, young female pop singer in mind, and then recorded it that way. And then, like, I guess 15, 16 years later, Johnny Mathis was looking for songs for Christmas, and I sent it, and he loved it. And then it took on a completely different thing. When I listen back, I think, oh my gosh, he's perfect for it, even more so than the original. But I didn't have him in mind when I wrote it.
Just some of the videos and some of the concerts I've seen of yours. I think one of my favorites was Donny Osmond's rendition of "Love of My Life," and I thought that it was just a natural. He was natural for that song, and also Wayne Brady, "Beautiful," was one of my all-time favorites as well. And so, just talk about that a little bit, because I think that those were two of the most beautiful songs that I've ever heard.
Well, again, that's another example of what I was saying. So, "Love of My Life," when I wrote it, in my mind, I heard like an everyman, so to speak, somebody with a gravelly voice. In my mind, I had like a Bryan Adams type of sound, and I ended up inviting Michael W. Smith to sing it, and that was where I had the hit with it for the most part. And then I went on the Donnie and Marie show when they had that on their talk show, and Donnie said, "Well, why don't I sing this on the show with you?" And he sang it, and he loved it. And then I invited him to sing it on one of my TV specials, and that was kind of where that came from. It grew out of our performing it live, and then we performed it at a Children's Miracle Network telethon. It grew naturally out of that, as opposed to me taking the song and pitching it to him.
Sure.
To sing. So yeah, he's so talented. I mean, I can't say enough about him. He toured with me for 2 years on my holiday tours, and his voice is just perfection.
Yeah, it was amazing.
And Wayne, one of the things that I love to do is to think outside the box, something that isn't an obvious choice, or someone who isn't an obvious choice, like Wayne.
Yeah, I played that song for several people, and I said, "Guess who this is singing this?" They couldn't guess, and it's Wayne Brady, and the comedian. I said, "Yeah, just amazing voice, and just it goes so good with that song, and just so beautiful, and just amazing." Another female collaborators as well with you, just amazing, Valentine and Destiny, and some of those great songs that you've written, and the work that you've done, and with that extensive career, for our listening audience, and I guess if there was one piece of advice, what would that advice be for somebody just getting started, I guess, in this business?
Well, again, it's a combination of a couple things. First of all, you really have to believe, like I said before, that you have something to share with people that is unique to you, a voice that comes from you, that you have something to say that is unique, something that that you're sharing with people. The choice to do it professionally is a commitment in so many ways. It's a commitment to a relationship with an audience, and to serve that audience. That if you're just doing it for people to clap for you or to tell you you're wonderful, that's a one-way relationship. Essentially, if people don't feel like you're sharing with them, and that you're sharing your experiences so that they can relate to what you're doing, and then take them to be part of their experience in life, something relatable, then it's not, then you're not doing it for the right reason. Um, Especially these days where so much of it is about, how many followers do I have? How many people are quote
Right.
unquote applauding me and things like that. That's not a long term objective.
Right.
The most important thing is your audience, and the other thing is that it's really hard work. The songwriting is like the icing, and the performing is like um, the gravy. It's like that everything else you do leads towards a thing that you love, but the rest of it, the um, how much you have to give of yourself and your life, um, and how much you have to trade for uh, not being around when there's a event, not being around when there's a party, committing uh, to being a great performer, committed to continuing to thrive and to learn and to being open-minded to new experiences. Um, but it's a commitment. It's not something you just do for, oh, I think I'll record a song and put it on Instagram and see what happens, or TikTok or something.
Yeah.
It's much more of a long-term choice, and it's like anything worth having. Um, you have to work really hard at it, and you have to know that you give up other things for it.
Yeah, that's great advice. I'm glad you said that too. And I think with the social media world that we're in right now, I know when you started, social media wasn't around. So everything, was done by performing live, basically, or on television. But now with social media and TikTok, like you mentioned, and Instagram, what are your thoughts of the way things have evolved with the social media world now, and how has that helped you, I guess, in your career? Has it helped you, or is it one more thing, I guess, that we have to do to keep up with everything?
Well, I mean, a couple things. The good news about it is that it's a great discovery platform for talented people. So it is an outlet for people to be seen who wouldn't necessarily be seen or find a path to an audience. So, the rediscovery of my music or that sort of thing on some of the social media platforms is, I think, important. It's the way that people um, uh, get their media. Um, However, again, it's like I said before, it's not sustainable unless you think of it as a long road and not just a quick fix.
Right.
That you turn the initial excitement for you or something like that into um, a live performance and start to tour where people are actually there. Something that builds loyalty and sustainability to the career. So, and so streaming has really helped my music, because what I do is so niche and specific. Solo piano music. So there's an outlet. If you like that, you can listen to a station that all they play is instrumental solo piano. So for me, it's a it's a it's a wonderful thing in that respect. However, it also, uh, in my view, it because anybody can do it. There are a lot of people that I feel like crowd the field
Hmm.
who aren't at a level that that should be considered to be um, valuable as a quality product.
Yeah.
Whenever there's a field of something that everyone can do from their basement, then people who are amateurs at it don't have to work that hard to just put something out there. So it's harder for people to weed through what is quality and what is just entertainment for the moment, or funny or cute or something like that. I mean, it's it's entertaining. It's an entertaining platform, but at a certain point, the quality does matter.
Absolutely. And speaking of that, what are your thoughts on the importance of branding yourself, obviously the right way, but I know because some people have teams of people, and indie artists many times do this on their own before they get to the point where they can have a team. But talk about the importance of branding yourself the right way, because all it takes is one misstep that could really ruin your career, correct?
It's not so much a misstep as it is that, again, you have to look at what you have. It's almost like you write it on a sheet of paper or something like that. I have a unique ability to write songs. I have a very comfortable stage persona that is inviting to people, that aligns with who I am. The brand you have to know what the brand is. I need to be able, when you ask me a question like, what is your music like, or what are you good at, or what should people know about your music? I have to be able to say it's romantic, it's calming, it's inspirational, it's hopeful, and it's soothing. Let's just say, as a handful of adjectives that describe my music. So once you know that, and that's your path, and you stick to it, it's so much easier to brand it, because you understand what it is. And so then you have to make sure that everything you do is patterned in that category. Your look, your style, your approach, the tone of this interview, the who you are to people, and why. The why it's a question I always say to the people that work with me is, why are you doing this? What is the reason that I'm going on your podcast? What is the purpose of touring in a tiny town where you're not making a lot of money? Why are you putting out 3 albums a year? Why are you, those things, if you don't know the reason you're doing it, you can't be a brand, because then, like, can I play a rock and roll song? Yes. Can I, could I have early in my career, done choreography, modeled, whatever, that kind of thing? Yes. But those things don't go with the trajectory that I'm on. So if you don't know why, it's like I talk about, you're talking about young people. It's like an actor that goes into an audition, and the casting director says, tell me about yourself. Well, I can do anything. I can sing rock. I can sing country. I can dance. I can, then the casting director's like, I don't,
Yeah.
I can't leave knowing anything about you. Just
Right.
because you can do those things
Right.
doesn't mean that you should. And so branding has to be reflective of staying the course of who you are, and how you behave. If I got on stage and I was like a maniac, people would be like, well, I don't understand. His music is so calm and romantic, but he's not like that. So how can that be real or authentic.
Yeah, that makes 100% sense. Venues, we were talking about venues earlier when you're doing your concerts and your TV specials and so forth. What's your favorite venue that you've ever played? Do you have a favorite, or do you have several?
I think for me, my hometown is the feels the best because it's where I grew up watching people that I admired on the stages that now I'm playing. So there's a feeling of um, everything from warmth to uh, confidence to um, appreciation and gratitude for what I learned by going to these places and having these venues. So in Cleveland, um, there are so many beautiful performing arts venues, and so whenever I get invited to play there, it's always an honor to be able to do that. But these days, there are so many beautiful theaters that sometimes I will play, even if it's, let's say, smaller than another theater in a town, but the experience is better for me and for the audience. I feel like at this point in my career is a better choice than doing something for the money or for um, because you can sell more tickets or something like that. Um, at a certain point, you have to still enjoy the experience, or you shouldn't do it anymore, because people can tell if you're not 100% in.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Now, speaking of venues, again, you have a tour that you're on currently, and for our listeners out there, I mean, I know you're playing Helena, Montana, coming up, Texas, Annapolis, Maryland, Cleveland, Ohio, and Singapore. So, talk about your current tour that you're on.
There are about 50 dates coming for fall and winter that aren't on sale yet, so you don't see them on my site. But um, I don't tour a lot in the summertime, but this particular year there are a handful of completely different experiences, like you said, Singapore and Jakarta, and Cleveland and Helena, Montana, and Texas. It's sort of a little bit all over the place, but I do my annual holiday tour every year, and we even did it last year, and that is about 30 dates, starting Thanksgiving to New Year's, and again all over the U.S. with my holiday tour, and then in the fall, I'm doing something really special that's called Brickman Across America. And it's a tour of iconic venues and cities that are known for developing developing American music and the origins of some of that music in how it developed into the music we know. So everything from Appalachian and bluegrass and country to rock and Motown and folk and the California sound, a lot of things that have influenced pop music as we know it today, that have their origins in early American music. So
Wow.
we're doing that, and it's a lot of fun. So we go from Appalachia to Hawaii on this, and then I'm going to do my version of songs that inspired the growth of American music.
That's amazing. Wow, that sounds like an interesting tour, and that's something that I wouldn't mind going to myself. That's great. Jim, my last question here before we go is, I ask this of every guest that I have, but when it's all said and done, what do you want your legacy to be? What do you want people to remember Jim Brickman as a performer, as a person? What do you want your legacy to be?
Well, that I created something that that affected people in a positive way, that made them comfortable, that maybe that they celebrate with, that they fall in love to, that created a soundtrack for some of the moments in their lives that I got to share something that they could experience that had a impact on a moment in their lives. A wedding song that I wrote that's always going to be yours. A calming influence on somebody that might be ill, or that makes them feel better because of the power of music. And share. It's all about sharing to me, and that music lives on as a way for people to comfort and heal and celebrate, and to use as a soundtrack to their life.
Well, Jim, I can't thank you enough again for joining the Stage Door Show tonight, and just again, a big fan of your music, always have been, of your career, and again, thank you so much for the advice that you've given our audience today, and also for taking the time to be on our show. So thank you again.
My pleasure. Thank you.